This allows you to paint that area underneath. You don't want to use a foam roller. So standing here, we've got about 40, 45. As a matter of fact, 95% of those circuit counter switches installed without consultation are installed incorrectly and there's no benefit. Hello, welcome. I'm here to do a little bit of a walkthrough through the use of the HF field probe by GEOVITAL Academy. The HF field probe, compared with the EM field probe, its low frequency equivalent, is a little bit different in size. The HF field probe is a little bit bigger. The unit comes supplied to you, the unit itself of course, comes with the charger, a charger cable, which may be, if you purchase the case with it, you may find this hidden behind the foam of the lid. So remember to have a look there. Now this charger functions at 110 volts, 110, 120, as well as 220, 240 volts. So you can use it anywhere in the world. It does have a European fitting on it though, so depending on where you are, if we were able to, we may have supplied it to you with a travel adapter. So you can plug this in the travel adapter and then into your PowerPoint/outlet. Now this cable and the charger, you would use a USB connection to connect these two, and that's how you can charge the unit. Now you'd be forgiven for thinking, oh hang on, this is easy, USB, I can plug that into any of my chargers, like my mobile phone, cell phone charger, or that little USB connection in my car. Well, I have to stress this to you, this unit is fitted with a fuse. And so if you charge this unit with any other charger other than the supplied charger, you run the risk that too much power goes through, the fuse will pop to protect the internals, and you will have to send this instrument back to Austria to get repaired. And obviously you're going to be without your instrument for quite a while. So please, don't ever charge this instrument with any other charger than the supplied charger. Okay, so sorry, to charge it, the charger cable just goes simply in the bottom. There we go. Turn the power on onto the charger, and then an animation is shown. Animation shows an empty battery being filled into a big green battery, and there's a counter counting down. This is just an animation. It has no bearing on how full your battery actually is. So don't look surprised or feel surprised when you've just charged it. Turn the power off, turn the power back on the charger, and the animation starts over again with an empty battery. When you turn the unit on, there's a battery indicator in the corner, and that will show you what level the charge is in the battery. Okay, it's okay to leave it charging overnight. That's no problem, and try and keep it full. Okay, the unit is also supplied with a number of contact aerials. We have a short contact aerial and a longer contact aerial. It's easier to use the long contact aerial, so that gets screwed onto the top, and basically you're ready to go. Taking a body assessment, you're now looking at, let's say, 0 to 8 gigahertz. So that's quite a range. The unit is also supplied to you with a line filter. There's a little bit of a story with this. This line filter is supplied because the instrument that this instrument is based on, which is no longer in production, and that was the reason why we needed to craft something to keep working with. The other instrument measured up to a lower frequency than 8 gigahertz. And so all our experience within the academy and working with all the patients is all based on working with that other instrument measuring a range that is lower than 8 gigahertz.
Man muss jetzt auch hier sagen, wir haben ziemlich viele Fenster hier, deswegen kann auch die Strahlung noch ein bisschen nach innen dringen, aber wir hatten hier auch schon Werte bei der Vormessung vor über 2000 Mark. Und wir bewegen uns knapp unter 100. Im Schlafzimmer erreichen wir Werte um die 50. Da waren wir auch weit drüber vorher.
And so our recommendation, which has stand for a long time, that in a bedroom scenario, if we measure the body and we get more than 100 microvolts, we would recommend shielding to be put into place. Ideally, in a bedroom, we would like to see less than 30. So this recommendation has come after years and years of use of that other instrument. Now, with this device, because now it looks up to 8 gigahertz, we're looking at much more what's going on. It kind of makes sense that these readings could be higher compared with the use of the other instrument. Therefore, for kind of a learning period, if you will, these instruments are supplied with this line filter, so that by putting the line filter in place and then the contact aerial, you're reducing the abilities of this instrument back to what our old instrument used to do. And so measuring with the filter, we know that those recommendations of 100, ideally less than 30, work perfectly. As we gather more data going forward, we may come to the conclusion that, I don't know, maybe above 120 we're going to recommend shielding, and ideally we'd like to see under 40. So feel free to measure with both, but just in case you're wondering what this line filter is about, I hope that makes sense. This shorter antenna, it may be supplied with the unit, it may not have, because I think this is something we're moving away from. This instrument is really not made to measure the air. But if you want to have a bit of a play with it, this was considered the 8 gigahertz antenna, and this was considered the 4 gigahertz antenna. Of course, 8 gigahertz is smaller than 4 gigahertz, hence the larger for the lower frequencies and smaller for the higher frequencies. But it's not really built for air measurements anyway. So in practical terms, this is the antenna you tend to use all the time because it's just easier to hold on to. So it may very well be that by the time you view these videos, this is no longer supplied with the unit. Right, anyway, so to turn the unit on, it only has one button, so it couldn't be much easier. And this does have a volume dial on the side. It does a little self-test. Okay, I'll just turn that volume down for the purpose of this demonstration. So by simply pinching the antenna on the top, we start getting a reading of what my body is currently absorbing. So at the moment we're looking at about 50 microvolts, 62. Now this can of course vary depending on where I am and also how my body is orientated, as in vertical versus horizontal. Because radio waves are polarized in different ways, so you'll take on more of one and the other depending on if you're standing up or lying down. So in the way we use this instrument is that we're most interested in what happens in the bedroom. And so we would ask the person to lie in the bed. The person taking the measurement, let's say, would kneel next to them, trying to make themselves small to not be a barrier for some radiation that might come from the back that they could potentially shield the person from. And of course, you're not going to sit there all night long, so you're going to try and make yourself nice and small to not be a major barrier. And then if you use the arm that's kind of closest to the person to reach over them, and then with their far away arm, they could pinch this antenna so both of you can see the display. And then you get a number and a good indication of what goes on into that bedroom. Now you could move the instrument around a little bit just to change the shape of the body a little bit. Of course, the exposure to radio frequency radiation varies all the time. And so what you're measuring may be in the lull of exposure. It could be higher. So if you move it around a little bit and change that body shape, you'll see that there's also a bit of a change in the reading. So typically if you move it around, whatever the highest value is, that's normally the value to go on in terms of your consideration, whether or not to put shielding in place or not. And yeah, that's pretty much all there is to it. So you get that number. Of course, if you own one of these, it's a good idea to take some measurements regularly, different times of the day, different times throughout the night. and kind of see what that exposure does and how that varies. Remember that the measurement of radio frequency radiation it's a little bit more complicated. What I'm trying to get at is that if you have an interest in assessing what a particular device may produce, you don't want to stand too close to the device. So if you have like a cell phone, a mobile phone, you don't put that right in front of you and then measure yourself. It has to be a certain distance away from you. A rough guide is a meter or 3 feet. That's a good distance to get a bit of an indication. All instrumentation has its limitations. That's not unique to us. What we have figured out in the interim is that with particular routers where the information is sent in packets, there's a certain pace to that, and this instrument also measures at a certain pace. And so sometimes when you try and ascertain if a router is putting out a lot, you may hear a lot of noise on the speaker, but it won't actually raise the number all that much. You can tell by the noise that clearly there's an exposure. So yeah, it's kind of a no-brainer that wireless technology is not a great idea to have in the house, certainly not the bedroom. So just keep in mind this is not just one of the limitations of this instrument. Other instruments have other limitations. So this is something we have found. But to do its work in the bedroom, put somebody down and measure their overall accumulated exposure, this is a wonderful tool. Okay, well, I hope that this made sense, and anyway, you enjoyed the use of your HF field probe.